Brothers and sisters, welcome back. I'm James, and today I want to read to you an email that we received just yesterday. I must confess, it left me speechless, because this is not just any message. It was written by a little girl, and within those simple and pure words lies something truly shocking, a seed of truth that cannot be ignored. Before we begin, I ask you for a simple gesture. Subscribe and leave a comment telling us where you are listening from. It's a very important act to help spread these words of Jesus. My name is Emma Grace Walker. I'm 12 years old and I live in Riverside, California with my mommy and daddy. Last month, something happened to me that changed everything. I went to heaven and met Jesus, and he told me about 3 big sins that are stopping Christians from going up to heaven in September 2025. He said I had to come back and tell everyone, especially the grown-ups, because many people who think they're ready for the rapture aren't ready at all. I know I'm just a little girl, but Jesus said sometimes he uses children to speak to adults because children's hearts are more open to hearing his voice. He told me that many grown-ups have forgotten how to listen like little kids do. So even though I'm only 12, I need to share what I saw and heard, because Jesus said it was very, very important. It all started on August 15th, 2025. It was a Saturday morning and Mommy was making pancakes for breakfast. I love pancakes, especially when she puts chocolate chips in them. But that morning, I started feeling really sick. My tummy hurt so bad and I felt dizzy. I told Mommy I didn't feel good and she felt my forehead. I was burning hot with fever. Mommy and Daddy rushed me to the hospital because my fever was so high and I was having trouble breathing. The doctors were very worried about me. They put me in a special room with lots of machines and tubes. I remember Mommy crying and Daddy holding her hand while they prayed over me. I wanted to tell them I was okay, but I couldn't talk anymore. Then everything went dark and quiet. But it wasn't scary dark like when you're afraid of monsters under your bed. It was peaceful dark, like when Mommy tucks me in and I know I'm safe. I felt like I was floating, but not falling. It was the most peaceful feeling I'd ever had in my whole life. Suddenly, I wasn't in the hospital anymore. I was standing in the most beautiful place I'd ever seen. The grass was greener than any grass on earth, and it felt soft like velvet under my bare feet. There were flowers everywhere, colors I'd never seen before, and they seemed to glow with their own light. The air smelled like all the best smells mixed together, like fresh cookies and rain and my mommy's perfume. But the most amazing thing was the light. It wasn't bright like the sun that hurts your eyes. It was warm and gentle and filled with love. I felt safer than I'd ever felt, like nothing bad could ever happen to me there. I knew without anyone telling me that I was in heaven. That's when I saw him walking toward me. I knew it was Jesus, even though he looked different from the pictures in my Sunday school books. He was tall and strong, but his face was so kind and gentle. His eyes were full of love, but also full of sadness. When he looked at me, I felt like he knew everything about me and loved me completely. He knelt down so we could be the same height and he smiled at me. His voice was the most beautiful sound I'd ever heard, like music and wind chimes and Daddy's lullabies all together. "Emma," he said. And when, like the most precious, he said my name, it sounded word in the world. "Yes, Jesus," I whispered, because even though I was just 12, I knew this was really him. He reached out and touched my face so gently. "I have something very important to show you, little one. Many of my people think they are ready for me to take them home, but their hearts are not clean. There are 3 sins that are keeping them from being ready, and I need you to go back and tell them." I didn't understand everything he meant, but I nodded because I knew it was important. Jesus took my hand and suddenly we were high up above the earth. I could see everything, like we were looking down from the highest mountain ever. But instead of just seeing the ground, I could see into people's hearts. Jesus pointed to a big church with lots of people inside. They were singing songs and raising their hands and looked like they loved Jesus very much. But then Jesus showed me something that made me very sad. Even though they looked happy and holy on the outside, their hearts were different colors. Some hearts were bright and clean and white like fresh snow, but many hearts were dark and muddy looking. "These people love me with their words," Jesus said, his voice full of sadness, "but their hearts are far from me. They do 3 things that make their hearts dirty, and they don't even know they're doing anything wrong." He showed me the first sin, and it shocked me because it seemed so small. I saw people in the church talking about other people who weren't there. They would whisper things like, "Did you hear about Sarah's problems at home?" Or, "I'm worried about Tom's marriage," but they weren't really worried. They were excited to know secrets about other people. They called it sharing prayer requests. But Jesus showed me it was really gossip. "Emma," Jesus said, pointing to their hearts, "see how each word makes their hearts darker? They think they are being caring Christians, but they are spreading poison with their tongues. They are destroying love and unity in my church with their careless words." I watched as the whispered words turned into dark clouds that covered the bright light in their hearts. People who had been shining with Jesus' love became dim and gray. It was so sad to see. The second sin was even more surprising. Jesus showed me families in their homes after church. They looked like good Christian families, with Bibles on their tables and pictures of Jesus on their walls. But when someone in their family made them angry or hurt their feelings, they wouldn't forgive them completely. I saw a mommy who was still mad at her sister for something that happened years ago. Even though she said she forgave her, in her heart she was still angry. I saw a daddy who couldn't forgive his son for making bad choices. He was nice to him on the outside, but inside he was holding on to hurt feelings. "Watch their hearts," Jesus said sadly. "See how unforgiveness builds walls around their hearts? They cannot receive my complete love because they will not give complete love to others. They want my mercy, but refuse to show mercy to their own families." It was true. I could see dark walls growing around their hearts, keeping Jesus' light from getting in. The people didn't even know the walls were there, but Jesus could see them clearly. Then Jesus showed me the third sin, and this one made him the most sad of all. He took me to see people who went to church and read their Bibles and prayed every day, but they had made their comfortable life more important than following him completely. They loved their nice houses and their money and their easy life more than they loved Jesus. "These people say they trust me," Jesus explained, "but they trust their bank accounts more. They say they love me, but they love their comfort more. They have made idols out of my blessings and forgotten that I am the one who gave them everything." I could see it was true. Their hearts were covered with shiny things like gold and silver, but underneath, the light was almost gone. They thought they were rich, but Jesus showed me they were actually very poor because they had pushed him out of first place in their hearts. "Emma," Jesus said, turning to look at me with those eyes full of love and sadness, "these 3 sins, gossip, unforgiveness, and idolatry of comfort, are keeping millions of my people from being ready for the rapture. They think they are saved, and they are, but they are not ready to be taken up because their hearts are not clean." "But Jesus," I asked, my little voice shaking with worry, "what about all the people who love you? Will they miss the rapture because of these sins?" His face grew even more serious, and I could see tears in his beautiful eyes. "Many will be left behind, little Emma. Not because they don't belong to me, but because they are not ready. The rapture is not just for those who believe in me. It is for those whose hearts are pure and ready to meet me face to face." He showed me something that made my heart feel heavy. I saw the moment when Jesus would come back in the clouds to take his people home. There were millions of Christians all over the world, and when the trumpet sounded, some of them started rising up into the air. Their faces were so happy and full of joy as they floated up to meet Jesus. But then I saw something that made me want to cry. Many other people who loved Jesus and went to church and read their Bibles were left standing on the ground. They were reaching up toward the sky, crying and asking why they weren't taken too. They couldn't understand what had happened. Jesus showed me their hearts, and I could see the dark spots from gossip, the walls from unforgiveness, and the shiny idols covering up his light. Even though they believed in him, their hearts weren't clean enough to go with him. "This is why I'm sending you back, Emma," Jesus said, kneeling down to look into my eyes again. "You must warn my people that believing in me is not enough. They must live like they believe in me. They must clean their hearts from these 3 sins before September." September, I asked. Why September, Jesus? Because that is when I will return for my bride, he answered. The church that is ready, without spot or wrinkle, holy and blameless. Time is very short now, and my people must prepare their hearts, not just their emergency supplies. Jesus showed me churches all over America where people were talking about the end times and getting ready with food and water and supplies. But he was sad because they were preparing their bodies, but not their hearts. They had missed the most important preparation of all. Tell them, little one, that no amount of stored food will help them if their hearts are not right with me. Tell them that I care more about their spiritual condition than their physical preparations. A heart full of gossip, unforgiveness, and love of comfort cannot enter my kingdom, no matter how many Bible verses they know. Then Jesus did something that surprised me. He reached into his robe and pulled out a small, glowing heart. It was the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen, pure white and shining with light. This is what every heart should look like, he said, holding it gently in his hands. Clean, pure, full of love for me and for others. When I return in September, only those with hearts like this will be ready to come with me. He placed the glowing heart in my hands, and it felt warm and alive. As I held it, I understood things I'd never understood before. I could feel how much Jesus loved every person on earth, even the ones who weren't ready. I could feel his sadness for all the people who would be left behind because they hadn't cleaned their hearts. I also felt his hope. He wasn't telling me this to scare people, but because he wanted everyone to be ready. He wanted every single person who loved him to come home with him in September. You must tell the grown-ups exactly what you saw, Jesus said. Tell them about the gossip that darkens hearts. Tell them about the unforgiveness that builds walls. Tell them about the idols of comfort that push me away. But also tell them that I love them so much and I want them to be ready. How can they get ready, Jesus? I asked, still holding the beautiful glowing heart. They must examine their hearts honestly, he replied. When they talk about other people, they must ask themselves, am I sharing this to help or just because it's interesting? When someone hurts them, they must forgive completely, not just with words, but with their whole heart, and they must ask themselves, what do I love more, my comfortable life or following me? Jesus showed me people all over the world who were getting their hearts ready. I saw a lady who stopped gossiping about her neighbors and started praying for them instead. Her heart got brighter and brighter. I saw a man who forgave his brother for something really bad, and the walls around his heart crumbled away. I saw a family who gave away half their money to help poor people, and the shiny idols disappeared from their hearts. It was so beautiful to see hearts getting clean and ready for Jesus. But I also saw many people who heard the warning but didn't think it applied to them. They thought they were already good enough, or they thought these sins were too small to matter. This is why I chose you, Emma, Jesus said with a smile. Adults sometimes think they know better, but children believe with simple faith. You will tell them the truth, and some will listen because it comes from a child's pure heart. I looked around at the beautiful place where we were standing, and I didn't want to leave. Can't I stay here with you, Jesus? I asked. It's so wonderful here, and I love you so much. His smile was full of love, but also full of purpose. I know you want to stay, little one, and one day you will come back here forever. But right now, I need you to be my messenger. There are people who will only listen to the truth when it comes from someone like you. He took the glowing heart from my hands and gently placed it inside my chest. Now part of heaven will always be with you, he said. When you tell people what you saw, they will feel the love and urgency in your words because this pure heart will be speaking through you. Jesus stood up and took my hand again. Are you ready to go back and help me save my people? I nodded, even though I was scared. I'm ready, Jesus. I'll tell everyone what you showed me about the 3 sins and about getting their hearts clean for September. He hugged me then, and it was the best hug in the whole universe. I felt his love surrounding me like a warm blanket, and I knew that no matter what happened when I went back, he would always be with me. Remember, Emma, he said as everything started to get bright and I began to feel myself floating away from that beautiful place. Tell them that I love them too much to let them miss the rapture because of dirty hearts. Tell them that September is coming quickly, but there is still time to get ready. Tell them that cleaning their hearts is more important than anything else they could do. The last thing I remember was Jesus' beautiful smile as I started floating back toward Earth. Then suddenly I was in my hospital bed, gasping and coughing. The machines around me were beeping really fast, and I could hear Mommy crying happy tears. The doctors were amazed because they said I had been gone for 12 whole minutes. My heart had stopped beating, but now it was working perfectly again. Mommy hugged me so tight I could barely breathe, and Daddy was crying too. They were so happy I was okay. But I knew I had to tell them right away about what Jesus had shown me. Even though I was tired and my throat hurt, I started talking as fast as I could. "Mommy, Daddy," I said, grabbing their hands. "I went to heaven, and Jesus told me something very important. He said there are 3 sins that are keeping Christians from being ready for the rapture in September, and I have to tell everyone." At first, Mommy and Daddy looked worried, like maybe the medicine was making me say crazy things. But when I started telling them exactly what I had seen, their faces changed. They could tell this was real, and not just a dream or imagination. I told them about the gossip that makes hearts dark, about the unforgiveness that builds walls, and about loving comfortable things more than Jesus. I told them about the rapture coming in September, and how many people who think they're ready really aren't ready at all. Daddy started crying again, but these were different tears. "Emma," he said quietly, "some of the things you're describing, I think I might be doing those things without realizing it." The next day, our pastor came to visit me in the hospital. Pastor Mike had known me since I was a baby, and he was always really nice to me. When I told him about meeting Jesus and the 3 sins, his face got very serious. He asked me lots of questions about what I'd seen, and I answered them as best as I could. "Emma," Pastor Mike said finally, "I believe God really spoke to you. Some of the things you're telling me, there's no way an 8-year-old would know these things unless Jesus really showed them to you. We need to share this message with our whole church. But I was scared about talking to all the grown-ups at church. What if they didn't believe me? What if they thought I was just a silly little girl making up stories?" I told Pastor Mike I was nervous, and he smiled and reminded me that Jesus had chosen me for this important job. When Sunday came, I was still in the hospital, but Pastor Mike asked if I could talk to the church through a video call on the big screen. My mommy and daddy helped me sit up in my hospital bed, and suddenly I could see all the familiar faces from our church looking at me through the camera. I took a deep breath and started telling them everything Jesus had shown me. I talked about the 3 sins and how they make hearts dirty. I explained about the rapture in September and how only people with clean hearts would be ready to go with Jesus. As I spoke, I could see some people in the congregation starting to cry. Others looked shocked or worried. When I finished, the whole church was very quiet for a long time. Then Mrs. Peterson, who taught my Sunday school class, stood up with tears in her eyes. "Emma," she said, "I think Jesus used you to speak directly to my heart. I've been gossiping about people and calling it prayer requests, and I didn't even realize how wrong it was." Other people started standing up too. Mr. Johnson said he had been holding unforgiveness against his brother for years. Mrs. Martinez admitted she loved her comfortable life more than she loved following Jesus completely. One by one, people began confessing the very sins that Jesus had shown me. Pastor Mike asked everyone who wanted to get their hearts clean and ready for the rapture to come forward for prayer. Almost the whole church came to the front, and many people were crying and asking God to forgive them and help them change. After church, lots of people called or came to visit me in the hospital. They wanted to hear more about what Jesus had told me. Some of them argued and said they didn't think the rapture was really coming in September, but others took it very seriously and started examining their own hearts. Mrs. Chen, who lived next door to us, came to see me and said, "Emma, I've been so angry at my sister for 10 years because she hurt my feelings. After hearing what you said about unforgiveness, I called her today and asked her to forgive me for staying mad so long. We both cried and made up, and I feel like a huge weight has been lifted off my heart. Mr. Rodriguez from Daddy's work visited and told me he had been spending all his time thinking about making more money and buying nicer things. But after hearing about the third sin, he realized he had made those things more important than God. He said he was going to start putting Jesus first in everything. The most amazing thing was watching how people's faces changed when they dealt with these sins. People who had looked tired and worried started looking peaceful and happy. People who had been mean or grumpy became kind and gentle. It was like watching hearts get clean from the inside out, just like Jesus had shown me. But not everyone believed or wanted to change. Some people said I was too young to understand spiritual things. Others said the rapture couldn't really be coming in September because nobody knows the day or hour. A few people even got mad and said I was scaring people for no reason. This made me sad, but I remembered what Jesus had told me about some people not listening. I kept sharing the message anyway, because Jesus had asked me to warn everyone, even if some people didn't want to hear it. Pastor Mike invited me to speak at other churches too, even though I was still just 8 years old. At first it felt weird standing up in front of all those grown-ups, but every time I started talking about what Jesus had shown me, I could feel that glowing heart inside me warming up and giving me the right words to say. Some churches welcomed the message and many people got their hearts ready, but other churches didn't want me to come because they said children shouldn't be teaching adults about spiritual things. This confused me because Jesus had specifically chosen me to share this message, and he had said that grown-ups sometimes needed to hear truth from children. At one church, a man stood up in the middle of my testimony and said loudly, "This little girl is deceived by the devil. The rapture isn't coming in September, and she's spreading false prophecy." I felt scared and started to cry, but then I remembered Jesus' love and how he had trusted me with this important message. I looked at the man and said as kindly as I could, "Sir, I understand you don't believe me, and that's okay. But Jesus really did show me these things, and I'm just trying to help people get ready. Even if you don't think the rapture is coming in September, wouldn't it be good to make sure your heart is clean anyway?" Some people in that church started crying when they heard me say that, and later several of them came up to apologize for the man who had been mean to me. They said they could tell that Jesus really was speaking through me. I know I'm just 8 years old, but Jesus chose me to tell you these things. The 3 sins of gossip, unforgiveness, and loving comfort more than God are keeping so many people from being ready for the rapture in September. But there's still time to clean your hearts. Ask Jesus to show you if these sins are in your life. And if they are, ask him to help you stop. Remember, he loves you so much that he sent a little girl to warn you. September is coming fast, but Jesus wants everyone to be ready to go home with him. We are so thankful that you stayed with us until the very end of this testimony. If you're still here, it means the Lord has spoken something profound to your heart. Now, we encourage you to take a simple action that can create eternal impact. Write a comment and let us know where you're watching from, so we can lift your nation in prayer. Make sure you're subscribed to this channel, and don't forget to activate the notification bell, so you won't miss the messages of hope and revelation we share every single day. Most importantly, share this video with at least 3 people you love: your family, your friends, your brothers and sisters in Christ. Because one simple share can rescue a soul, restore faith, and draw a heart back to the arms of God. May God's hand guide you, his light surround you, and his truth remain with you forever.